Hello and welcome to Mr. P's Netbeans tutorial. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a simple SQLite database using the Netbeans IDE and the Firefox SQL Manager. So on the screen here, you can see that I've created an outline for each of the steps that we're going to take while we're making the SQLite front end for a database. The first step is going to be to create a new GUI project. Then we're going to create a test database that we can populate with data to make sure that our program successfully connects to a database and that we have a working program. Then we're going to need to link our jar file for the databases. Let me just library. We're going to lay out some simple labels and buttons, connect to the database, make a simple SQL query, and output the results and close the JDBC driver connection. So let's get started on the first step. We're going to need to open Netbeans, and you can see here I have our Netbeans IDE. Should be very familiar to all of you. We will make a new program. It will be a Java application, and I'm going to call it SQL test. Okay, because it's not going to have a main class, because it's going to be a GUI program, we're not going to add the main class to it, and then we're going to press finish. Alright, so that's the first step. Here you can see it has created our SQL test package. And if we minimize, you can see our next step is to create a test database. So to create the test database, we're going to be using the extension for Firefox called SQLite Manager. And if you have the SQLite Manager open, it will look like this. So here we don't have any database selected. So the first thing that we're going to do is to click and create a new database. The name for our database can be something like students. Okay. And the next dialog asks which folder we're going to put our database in, and we want to find the Netbeans projects folders under the user directory and put it inside of our SQL test project. So when I open, it will now create the master table, and from there you can see here that our tables currently has 0. So we'll have to create a flat file to keep the data that we need. So creating the table name is going to be grades, and we're going to just have 2 columns or 2 fields, one called name, which will have a data type of text, and one called grade, which will have an integer data type. When I press OK, it will execute the SQL command create table using text field called name and an integer field called grade. And if I click over here on browse and search, you can see there is no data in it yet. So I'm going to create some fake students named Tom with a grade of 4, and Jerry with a grade of 7. Okay. And you can see there we have populated the database with 2 entries, Tom with a grade of 4 and Jerry with a grade of 7. So there's a very simple creation of a database there. So the next step if we go back to our brackets so I can see which steps. Now we want to link the jar library to our project. So if we go back to Netbeans, which I hid down here, we can right click, go to Properties, click on Libraries, add the jar file, which right now hasn't been downloaded. So we need to find that jar file. Luckily, I have it linked over here on the Manage Back Files page. So if we click there, it's a short download. I want to keep it. And now I can go to my Downloads folder. And there it is, the jar file. So when I press Choose, it will include the SQLite JDBC libraries when we are compiling our code, and I press OK. So the next step, checking our handy dandy brackets, is to create the J-frame. So we're going to need to create the J-frame now so that we can add a little bit of a design to it. So I want to click New, J-frame form. Let's call the class SQL test interface. The package would be my.GUI. And when I press finish, it creates the template from which I'm going to start adding different things to. Alright, so the first thing I want to add is a button, and we're going to change the text. I'm going to change the text to click me, and we're going to change nothing else. And we're going to add a label here, and we're going to make that label let's see, the highest grade is empty. Alright, and then underneath it, we're going to add a text field here-ish. We're going to make it 10 columns long. We're going to erase the text that's inside of it. And finally, we're going to disable it so that the user cannot edit it. The only input the user will have is the Click Me button. So we can test our GUI. We can see it is not editable, and the Click Me button so far doesn't have any programming in it. Okay, so let's add some functionality now. We've laid out some simple labels and buttons, so now we're going to need to connect to the database. So we do that, in Netbeans, we want to go to the source window. And for the time being, we're not going to add any events. I want to create a new method called connect. Public static connection connect. Alright. In this connection, we're going to, in this method, we're going to create a new connection called con, and we're going to initialize it to null. Then we're going to try to make the connection, but in the event that there are runtime errors, we will catch those So we're going to open up a try catch block. Connection isn't working because we're missing the imports. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the whole library. And I'm just anticipating needing other imports, so I'm going to add the whole swing library at the same time. So now I won't need to go back and import either the Java SQL libraries or the Java X swing libraries. So inside of the try catch, we're going to create a new string URL. This is the address to our database. So the way it starts would be JDBC SQLite using the colons, and then finally using the command structure the file structure. I'm going to add the project, the path to our database, which we created with the name students.sqlite. Let me double check this name here by going back to and seeing that, nope, in fact, students starts with a capital S, and therefore I should go back and change this to a capital S. The next thing we're going to do, after we've formatted our string the way we need it, we're going to set the connection equal to driver manager dot get connection URL. And the reason for these complaints is we haven't yet caught the runtime errors. So we're going to catch an SQL exception. And in the event we do get one of these, then I'm just going to make a J option pane, send, nope. Show message dialog dot show message dialog null e dot message. So this will give us the output in the event that the exception is thrown when trying to connect to the database. So that's the first part of the connection. And once we're done with that, then we need to return the connection. So that essentially has created a submethod or a subprogram that will simply connect to our database. So if we go back to our brackets, you can see the next thing that we're going to have to do is to make a simple SQL query. We want this to happen when we push the button. So we're going to go back to our design, and we're going to right click, create a new event under action performed. Alright, and this will create a new event here under action performed. So the first thing we need to do here is to make a new connection. We're also going to call it con, but remember, because of how scope works, this con will be different from our other con, but we're going to set it to be equal to the output from our connect method. The next thing we're going to have to do is to format an SQL statement equals, and the SQL statement that I'm going to use is select name from grades where grade equals 7. So in SQL, this statement will select the name of the person from our table grades where grade equals 7. So we're only looking for 7 students right now. Well, not the number of students. They're not 7 students, there's only 2, but we're looking for the student that has a grade of 7. So the next thing we're going to need to do is to use the try catch block again, because we don't know if any of these statements will return runtime errors. And we're going to create a new statement, stmt, and it's going to use the pre-made method create statement, and then we're going to attach the statement using the result set data type, and the result set is going to be the return of the statement, which we're finally going to execute using the execute query like this. And let's just, so it will stop complaining, let's catch all exceptions, and again output the exception in a message dialog. Going back in here, we're still not done. Once we have sent the statement to the SQL query, next we're going to need to put it into one of our text labels, or sorry, our only label for output. So we use while rs.next. So while we still have data in our result set, we are going to make a new string called name, and we're going to set it equal to get string, and let's use the column label 1. Then we're going to refresh the text in our JLabel to be the new string, but let's be a little fancier, and we're going to make it JLabel1.get text plus the new name. All right, and finally, the last thing that we have in our brackets steps is we need to remember to properly, sorry, my mouse is giving me issues. We need to properly output the results and then close the JDBC driver connection. So we're going to need one final element in here, con.close, and this will immediately close the whole file. All we're going to do is test whether or not we can successfully send an SQL statement to the database and display message in the graphic and then close the connection. So it's a very simple program. So let's look through one last time just to make sure all the pieces are together. We've got our action performed that creates a connection, formats an SQL statement, tries to execute that statement, resets the label, the JLabel1, and then closes the connection. And inside of the connect, we create a new connection. We try to link it to students.SQLite, and we get our connection. And if we have any errors, of course, we catch them. Finally, return the connection. So let's try running this now. It will ask us to set the main class, and we do want the main class to be the test UI. So when we run this, the highest grade, if we look back here at our the highest grade is Jerry. So we should expect path to does not exist. Users Mr. P. Alright, so that is our runtime error. So let's close this and let's make sure that we have the right path. So if we go to the Finder, we go to Netbeans projects, and we go to SQL test. Here's our students.SQLite. Let us open up a terminal. And by dragging this into the terminal, users, MRP, Netbeans projects, SQL test, students.SQLite. So now, oh, I missed the project name. That was my mistake. So let's redo this one more time, remembering to keep the GDBC and the rest. Now we have our new file name. We'll have to quit the old program and run it. And there we go. The highest grade is Jerry. Oh, I meant to put it in the text box. Oh well. Well, this works. So that's how you very simply add the database connection to your GUI program. Thank you very much, and goodbye.